It was one of those quiet afternoons when the world felt a little heavier than usual. A small cafe buzzed softly with the sounds of coffee machines and quiet conversations. In the corner, a tired single mother stood holding a tray, scanning the crowded room for an empty seat. Her young son clutched her hand, his eyes wide with hunger and patience. Across the cafe, a sharply dressed billionaire CEO sat alone at a table meant for four. His phone buzzed with business messages worth millions of dollars, but in just a few moments, a simple question from a stranger would remind him of something far more valuable than money. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories about kindness and the small moments that change lives, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Kindkoi's Corner, where every story reminds us how powerful kindness can be. Sarah Miller had learned to carry the weight of life quietly. At 32, she was raising her 7-year-old son, Ethan, on her own in Chicago. Life hadn't turned out the way she imagined. After her husband passed away 3 years earlier from a sudden illness, Sarah found herself balancing 2 part-time jobs, rent payments, school lunches, and endless bills. Most days were a blur of responsibility. But every Friday, Sarah kept one small promise to Ethan. They would go out together. Not somewhere expensive. Just somewhere warm, somewhere that felt normal. A burger, a sandwich, sometimes even just fries and hot chocolate. It was their little tradition, a reminder that even when life was hard, they still had each other. That Friday afternoon, the cafe downtown was more crowded than usual. Office workers had filled nearly every seat. The smell of grilled sandwiches and roasted coffee beans drifted through the air. Sarah held a small tray with a sandwich cut in half and a bowl of soup they planned to share. She glanced around the room again. No tables. Ethan tugged gently on her sleeve. "Mom, we can stand if we have to," he whispered. Sarah forced a small smile. "Let's just see if we can find a spot." Then she noticed one. Near the window sat a man alone at a large wooden table. His navy suit was perfectly tailored, and a silver watch glinted on his wrist. A laptop sat open in front of him beside an untouched plate of food. 3 empty chairs surrounded him. Sarah hesitated. Asking strangers for help wasn't something she liked to do. But Ethan was hungry, and the soup was already getting cold. She walked slowly toward the table. "Excuse me," she said gently. The man looked up. His expression softened slightly as he noticed Ethan standing beside her. "Yes. Would it be okay if my son and I shared this table?" Sarah asked. "There aren't any others open." The man studied them for a moment. His eyes moved from Sarah's tired face to Ethan's hopeful one. Then he smiled. "Only if I pay the bill," he said. Sarah blinked in surprise. "Oh no, that's really not necessary," she replied quickly. "We're fine, I insist," the man said kindly, closing his laptop. "Please, sit." Ethan's face lit up like someone had switched on a light inside him. Sarah slowly pulled out a chair. "Thank you," she said softly. The man extended his hand. Daniel Carter. The name meant nothing to Sarah at first. But across the country, Daniel Carter was known as one of the youngest tech billionaires in America. His company had transformed online security systems for banks and hospitals. He had boardrooms, private jets, and meetings scheduled months in advance. Yet at that moment, he was simply a man sharing a table. Ethan climbed onto his chair. "Hi, I'm Ethan," he said proudly. Daniel chuckled. "Nice to meet you, Ethan." For a few minutes, they ate quietly. Sarah and Ethan shared their sandwich and soup while Daniel sipped coffee. Ethan occasionally glanced at the man's expensive watch, fascinated by how it reflected the sunlight from the window. Then Daniel asked a simple question. "So, how was school today?" Ethan didn't need encouragement. "It was good." I got a gold star in reading, he said excitedly. And my mom says if I keep getting them, I can be anything when I grow up. Daniel smiled. That's a pretty good deal. Sarah laughed softly. He works very hard, she said. And what about you? Daniel asked gently. What do you do? Sarah hesitated for a moment. I work at a grocery store in the mornings, she said. And I clean offices in the evenings. Daniel nodded slowly. That sounds like long days. It's worth it, Sarah said, glancing at Ethan. He's the reason. Ethan beamed proudly. Daniel leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. For years, he had spent most of his time around investors, executives, and billion-dollar negotiations. Conversations usually revolved around profits, stock prices, and competition. But this moment felt different. Real. Do you two come here often? He asked. Every Friday, Ethan answered before Sarah could speak. It's our special day. Sarah smiled. It doesn't have to be big, she said. Just something we do together. Daniel looked at the half sandwich and small bowl of soup. Then he looked at Ethan's bright smile. And something stirred inside him. Ethan, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? The boy didn't hesitate. A scientist. That's impressive. I want to build machines that help people, Ethan said seriously. Daniel felt a quiet lump in his throat. He had spent his life building machines that protected data and systems, but hearing a child describe helping people made it sound so simple. The waitress approached the table. Can I get anyone anything else? Daniel looked at Sarah. Would you like another sandwich? He asked. She shook her head gently. We're okay. But Ethan looked longingly at the dessert display near the counter. Daniel noticed. How about some chocolate cake? He asked. Ethan's eyes widened. Sarah laughed softly. That might be the highlight of his week. 3 slices, Daniel told the waitress. When the cake arrived, Ethan looked like he'd just won the lottery. Between bites, he kept talking. About school. About science experiments. About the little cardboard rocket he built with his mom. Daniel listened to every word. For the first time in months, he ignored his phone completely. Eventually, the bill arrived. Daniel picked it up without hesitation. Sarah tried to protest. You really don't have to do that, she said. But Daniel shook his head. Actually, he said, I'm glad I can. Then he reached into his wallet and placed a small card on the table. Sarah glanced at it. Her eyes widened. Daniel Carter. CEO. He smiled awkwardly. Something like that. Sarah stared at him. You're the Daniel Carter. Ethan looked confused. Mom, who's that? Sarah laughed nervously. Only someone who runs one of the biggest tech companies in the country. Ethan blinked. Oh. Then he shrugged. Do you still like cake? Daniel burst out laughing. Yes, he said. Very much. Before leaving, Daniel knelt beside Ethan's chair. Keep getting those gold stars, he said. The world needs scientists like you. Then he turned to Sarah. You're doing an incredible job, he told her quietly. Her eyes filled slightly. Thank you. Daniel walked toward the door. But before he left, he turned back. Hey Ethan, he called. Yes. Next Friday, my treat again. Ethan looked at his mom. Sarah smiled. I think we can accept that. Ethan grinned. Deal. Daniel stepped outside into the busy Chicago street. Cars rushed past. People hurried to meetings and appointments. But he paused for a moment, reflecting. That afternoon, the most valuable conversation he'd had wasn't about money or business. It was about kindness. And sometimes, Kindness begins with something as small as sharing a table. The truth is, we never really know what someone else is going through. A tired mother carrying responsibilities. A child holding on to hope. Or even a billionaire who needed a reminder about what truly matters. But one small moment of kindness can change the direction of someone's day or even their life. So the next time you have the chance to share a table, a smile, or a helping hand, take it. Because kindness, no matter how small, has a way of creating ripples far beyond what we can see. And who knows? Your simple act might become someone else's unforgettable story. And here at Kinkoi's Corner, we believe every act of kindness, big or small, makes the world a little brighter.